So it's really important to look at who's actually going to be working on your project,
That's
not
right.
just the organisation. All the facets of the implementation. The number one thing comes down to...
Welcome everyone to the SMC Couch. We've got a really special guest today, Cameron Elliott, our Director of Operations at SMC. Welcome, Cam.
Thanks, Milo.
We've got two specific questions to ask Cam, and we want to give some insights to our clients in terms of how to choose partners when it pertains to implementation partners for the technology, but also the independent sort of client-side partners that you might engage. And I just wanted to get your thoughts on what you think some of the considerations that some of the clients we speak to need to have in mind when they're choosing. Let's start off with the implementation partners, right? So
Yeah, sure.
there's a big network of implementation partners for all the different solutions. Typically there's 2 or 3 or more implementation partners that an organization can choose from, and that we help them in the selection choose. What would you say are the main considerations when choosing an implementation partner?
Yeah, great question, right? It is very similar to choosing an implementation partner to choosing an independent partner to work on the client side of things with you. So we'll start with the implementation partners, and you're right. There's hundreds of implementation partners in Australia, right? And when you break it down to each different product, there's at least typically a few to choose from, depending on quite a number of factors. So there are quite a few things to look at, but what it really boils down to is trust. Right, so you need to be able to trust the implementation partner that you're going to be working with, and there's a number of different ways to evaluate that so that you can trust them during the implementation. Because there's a pretty good chance you've never worked with them before. You don't do these kind of projects very often, right?
Yeah.
So you want an approach to be able to work out who's going to be the right fit for you. So there's a number of different things that you want to take into consideration. Obviously, experience is such a key evaluation topic. You want someone who's done these kind of projects before, not just of the technology that you're implementing, but also the actual industry that you're in.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
So manufacturing versus services type businesses, that they are different, and they come with different nuances about them. And so you want a partner who's got experience in your particular industry and the way that you want to be able to work to know how to best implement that.
And have
solution.
perhaps worked with very similar organizations to yourselves, where they've had lessons learned and things that they've done which add value, and you want to participate in that.
Oh, absolutely. It's highly unlikely that your business is that different from every other business out there, especially in Australia and New Zealand. Finding someone with that experience is really important. So you want to look at their experience. You also want to look at not just the organisation's experience, but you want to make sure they've got consultants who are experienced as
That's
well, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Pedigree does not equal the right resources.
Look, and people move around so much at the moment.
That's right.
I think since 2020, when there was a great surge in terms of the work that was required around implementations, a lot of organisations grew quickly. And so not necessarily all the resources that within those businesses were at the same calibre that you might have used to have gotten. And there's been a lot of movement between partners and even from one system to another. So it's really important to look at who's actually going to be working on your project, not just the organisation as well. You've got the organisation's experience and capability. You've got the individuals that are going to be working on the project, methodology and IP. So, how is it that the implementation partner is actually going to implement the solution for you? There's a lot of different approaches out there, and different systems have their own, tailored approaches, but you've got to make sure the methodology is going to be used for you is the right one for the type of system that you're implementing, but also the type of organisation that you are.
That's right.
So, you don't want to go through an agile sprint approach if that's not something that you're going to be comfortable with as an organisation, right? And you probably don't want to do that for ERP projects, but it's great to tailor that for other types of implementation.
So it's really important. Most you alluded to methodology and approach. Most organizations have not just one, right? They have a little bit of flex in their methodology, right, to make it work. And so that's something that you evaluate, right? The type of flex, and where is that flex, and how can they sort of tailor their methodology and approach for that particular client. Because it's not just the industry where the client is, it's not just what they do and the functions that they're getting, but it's also the individuals at the client's organization as well. So when you're doing the evaluation of methodology, you're not simply just looking at, well, these are the steps that you follow. You're looking at, well, how do they fit? To what depth am I doing these steps, right?
Yeah.
And that's what you're really alluding to there is find a mix or a ratio that works for the organization that fits.
Yep.
It's part of that whole overall partner fit that we consider.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So with the methodology, I group IP into that methodology as well, right? Because good vendors or good partners for vendors will actually come with a bunch of IP that they can bring to the table to speed up your implementation.
That's right.
So it's not necessarily, a bit of software that they've already written or something like that. It might be the know-how. And there's lots of examples of that kind of stuff in the Australian industries about how you can speed up implementations.
It's even, you alluded to it, it's not just software, but it might be the way that they actually execute the configuration of the software might be a lot quicker than their competition.
Absolutely.
So that's it's how quickly can they stand up a solution? Have they developed a certain way of the out-of-the-box standard functionality and how it sort of comes to the client? So that's a really interesting point.
You want to make sure that they're culturally aligned to you as an organisation as well. So, you don't want someone that's going to be grating against your project team every time you meet. You want to make sure that you get a good understanding of that organisation and that you're going to work well together. So a good example is like family-owned businesses. Probably a bit different to a multinational, multi-billion-dollar organisation in terms of some of the approaches that you want to take within there and just the people that you'd be working with in there. So
it's really important. On that point, I wanted to ask you about, you're creating a relationship which is potentially multiple decades long, right? With this, they're becoming a true partner of the organization for a long time. You'd hope so, right? So what do you say about that? Because that's why cultural fit is so important. Right, because it's really, truly, you're starting a relationship for a long period of time and hoping that it doesn't, sort of end anytime soon.
Yeah, look, absolutely. I mean, the implementation itself, could be anywhere from, 4 months to, 18 months kind of thing. And I guess depending on how many phases there are, for some organisations, you might be looking at, 3 or 4 phases to roll out the implementation. So it could be 2 or 3 years. And then once you go live, that's not the end either.
Yeah.
So
you got support.
That's right. And then that brings up another topic around, if you're not going to be doing all of that support yourself internally, and a lot of organisations don't have the capability, capacity, or even the want to be supporting the systems around. Yeah. That's right. So, you want an implementation partner who can take you through the journey, get you live, but then also look after you once you are live to bring that continuous improvement type approach to the solution. These cloud-based solutions, they're evolving all the time. You want to make sure that you're keeping up, but also taking advantage of the things that are going to make an impact on your business.
That's right. Because that's one of the main benefits of those types of solutions is that you get upgrades naturally through the product evolution.
Yep.
So you want a partner that will be proactive and help you in that path and make sure that you're always leveraging the solution to its full potential. Right?
That's right. And so however you want to work as an organisation, find a partner that's going to fit in nicely with that, not someone that's going to grate.
That's right.
Yep.
If I could add to the experience component, there's another facet to the experience, which is the relationship with the vendor, the technology partner. So it's really important to differentiate between the implementation partner and the vendor, the technology partner. And sometimes, even with some of the brand new solutions or the cloud versions of solutions, maybe a partner hasn't had that much experience with that particular version of a solution. So that's also another factor in that experience. It's not just have they done this before, but it's have they done it with what I'm getting at the moment.
Yeah, that's right. And I think not many vendors actually implement their own solutions. So a lot of them rely on a partner network. There are some out there and they do it very well, but you want to make sure that the partner that you're going with is really focused on that, solution or at least technology, right? So if they're doing 5 or 6 different technologies or products, then maybe they're not as focused. But no, they might have focuses within their business that work on those areas. But making sure that they've got a good relationship with the vendor means that you're more likely to get a head start on what's coming and how to do things well. And you can always escalate things to the vendor to help resolve issues that come up as they do during implementations.
We've spoken about the implementation partner, which is one side, the technical side, and the relationship side related to the functional solution or solutions that you're getting. What about the client side of things and the client responsibilities and choosing a partner in whatever format that is, what are some of the considerations on that side of things? Because it's slightly different to the implementation. There are some similarities, as you mentioned, but slightly different. So
yeah. So I think broadly it's very similar, right? And it comes down to trust. You want an organisation that you can trust to take you through, I guess, all facets of the implementation. That could be all the way back from defining what your strategy is, whether it's looking at your processes and how you want to work in the future, getting the right, helping you pick the right solution, right, through to planning and then actually helping on the implementation.
So it's actually, it's an even longer relationship with
absolutely
some organizations that get independent partners from the very beginning. It's a longer relationship in terms of there's increased accountability, there's more responsibility in terms of what's been defined and what's been kept. So
that's right, and that's why trust is such an important piece. And there's a number of different elements that make up that trust, right? And I think the number one thing that organisations need to look at when they're picking a partner to work with them through all the facets of the implementation, the number one thing comes down to independence. That's right. So you want to make sure that whoever you're partnering with is able to give you the best and unbiased advice.
That's right.
Throughout the whole process. That's probably the main difference between picking a partner for the implementation. So the implementation partner who works with the vendor, you want them to have the expertise in that particular product, and you want them to be focused on that, right? So that once that solution's been picked, they can then focus all of their time and effort on how to best make that solution work for you.
And this is precisely why we say the implementation partners themselves, they are precluded from doing certain things in an implementation because you want them to be focused on the technology, and that's where their expertise are. And you want to put the expertise in the right place for the other things which are more client's responsibility and you need to handle it.
Yeah, absolutely, right. You wouldn't ask an implementation partner which product you should choose for your business, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And they're going to pick the one that they do or one of two or three that they do, right?
Exactly,
so it's like walking into a Toyota dealership and asking, what's the best car for me? Look at these Toyotas, right? So, it's the same kind of thing. We spoke about, independence, right? And then you can look at the other elements as well. So again, when you're picking a consulting partner to work with you through the whole life cycle, you do need to focus on the organisation. It's their capability. It's the methodology that they bring to the table. It's the IP. It's having an integrated methodology through all the different phases, or even just one of the phases, if you're picking that. It means all the different pieces, all the different people can work together under a good structure to get you to the outcome that you want, which is probably the main difference between bringing in contractors, for example. Everybody's got their own way of working when they're contractors, and so not necessarily working under a structured banner methodology that you would get from an organisation that comes in and able to do that.
And it's very challenging when it is an individual, it's very challenging to pull a number of experiences as opposed to a consulting partner that has multiple individuals who have experience, and typically when they deliver projects, all of that is pulled into the methodology, baked into the methodology. So it's not quite a one-to-one comparison, right? A consulting partner brings with them a lot of experience, a lot of similar situations, perhaps even experience with that particular implementation partner that you might have chosen in another situation. That kind of stuff. So you mentioned methodology was really important for that.
Yeah, so methodology, super important so that all the pieces come together. I guess the team that comes with the organisation as well. One of the things, when you get an organisation is that they're not looking for what the next contract is and, going live in 8 weeks, but got this nice juicy contract that I'm going to move on to, for example. So, that an organisation is going to be there, through the whole journey. You also know that they're not going to skimp out when it gets tough as well, right? So, we've all been through projects that have been pretty tough, but it's about getting to the end point and making sure it's a success for the client. So experience is another really big one. You want to get an organisation that's done it lots of times before. Again, ideally in that industry, not just the the organisation, but also the people within the organisation. So, have a look at things like case studies, references. Go and talk to other clients that have used those partners before. So that's very similar between the implementation partner and a consulting partner that you'd get through the life cycle. They're some of the main things to have a look at.
Well, thanks for that. You've mentioned a lot of things, and hopefully our audience have found them very valuable. What's the one takeaway that you would want our audience to leave with when it pertains to selecting any type of partner? And what's the one takeaway you would like everyone to walk away with from today's chat?
The one thing is trust. So how can you get trust in the partner that you're going to be working with? That'd be the number one thing. And then for the implementation partners, it's that trust really comes through experience, what kind of experience they're bringing to the table, and how you can interrogate that experience to make sure that you're then comfortable with it. From a consulting partner to work on all the client-side activities with you, that's probably slightly different. There's the experience element there, but there's that independence that really means that you can get that unbiased and advice that you can trust and rely on.
That's right. Well, thanks, Cam. You've been very generous with your time. So I'd like to thank you for coming and talking about these two topics. I know you and I have had plenty of chats off camera about these things. So I'm really glad that our audience has experienced you telling them a little bit about that. And hopefully you've all gotten value out of that. So thanks again, and we'll see you in the next video.